On a hot summer morning. Good morning. No response sometimes is the best response of all. So you see this image up here? You know what that is? It's a frog boiling in water. Do you know the story behind that? Well, I don't know from like my own personal experience because I'm not a big frog boiler, but I'm told that if you put a pot of boiling water on the stove and then you plop a frog in it, that the frog will immediately jump out. But if you put a pot of cold water on the stove, then you put the frog in it and you slowly turn up the heat, the frog will stay in the pot and eventually be boiled to death. Guess who the frog is? You are the frog. You are the frog. Emerson says we but half express ourselves and are ashamed of that divine idea which each of us represents. We live half lives. We're partly happy, we're somewhat in love, sometimes we're awake, most of the time asleep. A portion of us is in the game, not all of us fully yet. We dream our dreams, we have no shortage there, but we don't do the follow-up work to make our dreams come true. We ask for our healing, we really want to be healed, but we don't really want to participate in it. We don't have to change anything about ourselves to get our healing. We're not living whole lives, we're living half of a life. And this isn't a judgment, it's not a condemnation. Nobody gets this way by conscious choice. We don't consciously do that. We're all being slowly simmered like the frog. And it happens little by little each day, one asinine idea at a time. You know, one false belief, one fearful little rant that we buy into, each one of them pulling us very slowly down into lowered expectations. Just slow enough that you don't really notice it, like the frog in the pot. Because you know what he's thinking? He's thinking, wow, this is great. The water is refreshing. How nice of them to give me a spa treatment. You know? But then before he knows it, he's dead. And that's what's happening to you. Happens to all of us. Before we ever have time to notice, slowly, very, very slowly, the lowered expectations of the fearful masses start to take over our minds and control our thinking. Very, very slowly, we start to expect less. We see a television commercial for a drug company and we think I've got that disease. We expect to get sick on cue because the TV tells us. Slowly, slowly, as we age, we can become convinced that our best days are behind us. Ever so slowly, you start to see fewer and fewer good opportunities in life, and you start to see more and more obstacles. And this happens to all of us at such a snail's pace that we never really notice it until one day we wake up and we're not happy. And we don't know why. Or you wake up and you don't feel good and you can't figure out what that's about. And when you think about your future, which you don't very often, but if you happen to have a waking moment and you think about your future, there's really not much in it other than what's exactly in today, which is just surviving, doing what you need to do today to get through the day and pay your bills. So there's nothing really bright in your future. And you ask yourself, when you become aware of this, how did this happen? How did I get here? Why am I not happy? What happened? Well, you've been sleeping, just asleep, unconsciously moving through life, accepting just whatever came along because that's what you thought you had to do. And now you're awake, and now it's time to get your life back. It's time to get your life back. This is the difference between spirituality and religion, for those of you who often wonder. Religion at its best can provide us a good moral compass. At its worst, however, it is, as Karl Marx said, the opiate of the masses. It can help people rationalize their suffering by telling them God is somehow pleased by your misery. It can provide a comfort station for mediocre living for those who will forego living a powerful, dynamic life in the here and now to wait until later where they get some reward later in heaven. It assists us in our self-righteousness by giving us a chance to say, I'm right and you're wrong. My religion is right and yours is wrong and you're all going to hell. Spirituality, on the other hand, is what I call an arousal. It's exactly what it is. It's an awakening. It arouses the giant within. It's a call for the genius within to come forth. It affirms power in the present moment, ready for you to use now. It ignites a divine spark within you that calls you to a greater life. For those of you who like to think of yourselves as proud Americans, you should feel good about this spiritual movement that we're in. It is a Made in America brand. Did you know that? It was born right here on this continent. It started 150 years ago, 200 years ago with the American transcendentalists, Emerson, Thoreau, Whitman, each one claiming the authority that resides within us over any external deity. By watching, by just observing what naturally occurs around us, Thoreau said, we can learn how to live in alignment with God, not through the outdated doctrines of what he called dead institutions. And so he excused himself from society and went to Walden Pond where he said, I wished to live deliberately. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. And it was there where he observed what we all now know, what science has taught us, that nature is intelligent, that it is filled with God's presence, that everything is alive and teeming with an intelligence. Did you know that if you put a potted plant or a potted flower near a window, that it will naturally bend toward the light, which is, of course, the source of its growth, the source of its nourishment? There's an intelligence within the plant that instinctively knows where to turn toward its greater good. When there's a thunderstorm here, when you hear the first crash of thunder, my dog Jack at home freaks. He goes searching for me all through the house, and he gets very, very close to me. He stays very, very close. Do you know why he does that? Because his instincts tell him to get close to his protector and the source of his good, which is me. Just as Thoreau said, there are lessons to be learned here from nature. So if you are as smart as a plant, and I can see that some of you are, some, you too will lean toward the light. Do you know what I mean? You will turn to the source of your good where you can be nourished and grown. And if you're as smart as my dog Jack, and I know some of you are, when you're scared, when you're uncertain about your future, that's when you'll get really, really close to God, which is, of course, your protector and the supplier of all good in the universe. But if you don't know Jack, my dog, Jack, if you don't know Jack, you won't do that. You'll try to get by on your own, and you will suffer the fate of the masses. You will be lulled back to sleep into lowered expectations and mediocre lives. Do you know why that happens? Because human life has a monotonous pace to it that, if you are not conscious and stay awake, will lull you back to sleep. The alarm is ringing. This is your wake-up call. It is time for you to stop accepting less than what you really want from this life. It is time for you to think bigger, for you to live better. It is time for you to raise your expectations and place a demand upon your consciousness. Let me ask you something. What do you honestly think would happen if you just all of a sudden started expecting more? What do you think would happen if you suddenly just raised your standards just because you decided to do so? How do you think the people around you would respond to you raising your standards? I bet it'd piss them off. I bet it would. Try it. Try it this week and see what happens. Seriously. I mean, don't be mean about it. You know, don't be demanding about it, but try it. Start saying things like, you know, I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't speak to me that way ever again, because I don't like it. I don't like it when you talk to me that way. So don't do that. Or if you go to a restaurant this week, try telling the maitre d', you know what, can you give me the best table in the house? Because I'm working on raising my standards, and you can help me out right here. You can help me out. Now, here's one that might piss off somebody. It's a relative thing, and you can fill in the blank with any relative. I just chose mother, which is one letter away from smother. Only in the English language. So here it is. Well, Mother, that's a nice story, and thank you for sharing it, but you know what? I'm not really doing guilt anymore. So, so next time, next time you want me to do something for you or call, you know, just ask. Just ask. It'll save us a lot of time. Try that and see what happens. Stop saying yes when you really mean no. No. Here's the thing. When you stop accepting less, it is amazing how quickly something better comes along. Check this out. A few years ago, when we were stuck in that tiny little building down the street, remember that building down the street? It was too small. We were only doing one service there. I got in this meditation that I do. I do a meditation every day, and I was thinking about, you know, how can we serve the greater good? And I got in my meditation one day, a few years ago, that it was time to step outside of the box. I kept getting this image of getting outside of the box. It's time to think bigger, to act bigger about who you are and what you're doing. And I didn't really know what that meant. I thought it was like the box, the building, we were in that box, we need to get out of the box. But I said, you know, okay, I just followed the best ideas in front of me, because I didn't really know how to do that. And the best idea that was in front of me was to start uploading our content to our website. So we started doing that years ago, and as you know, the video and the audio of our CSL Sunday lessons are uploaded to our website, cslkc.org, and they're put on iTunes every week. Well, get this. Last month, in June of 2012, our website was visited 5,018 times, which is an average of about 60,000 hits a year. But wait, there's more. In June of 2012, last month, our Sunday lessons were downloaded over 4,000 times from people in 41 different countries around the world, including the United Arab Emirates, the Czech Republic, Kazakhstan, Turkey, Kuwait, Hong Kong, Ukraine, Japan, and Vietnam, and dozens more all around the world, all in 1 month. The other good news about that is, even though all of this content is uploaded to our website and to iTunes is free, people are starting to send in contributions. And it has gone from the hundreds of dollars each year to so far this year, I just received the report this week, it's almost $3,000. Now that's not a lot of money, but it is, however, evidence that we are doing the right thing by thinking bigger about what we do here at CSL. It is a global issue here. You know, there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Nothing. And the idea for you, for you to take away from today's lesson is this. It is time for you to start thinking bigger about your life. It is not just confined to one little role you play. It's time for you to do as Thoreau did, to live deliberately and to assume the role that nature has given you all along, the role of a conscious co-creator. In the book that we're reading for the year, A New Design for Living, and I hope you all have it, and I hope you're following along, Dr. Holmes wrote this for today's lesson. He said, too often we encounter our experience, then laboriously attempt to draw a plan of what it is. He says, this is like walking backwards. We need to turn around, we need to face where we're going, and we need to plan our next step. Basically, what he's saying here is we can't move ahead if we keep looking back. You understand that we keep creating the past over and over and over again because we keep thinking the same thoughts. Now, here's the thing. The past does not have to be the best predictor of your future. You don't have to repeat it over and over again until you just die of boredom. He says the way out of that is to turn around, to face where you are going, to plan your next step, and to keep moving. The unfortunate truth is that if you ask most people an honest question, are you living your best life? The unfortunate truth is most of them will say, no, I'm not. I'm not living my best life. And that's because something in us knows we're not living up to our true potential. Something in us knows we're only living half a life, as Emerson says. Something in us knows that we haven't yet been all that we believe we can be. Most people just don't know what to do about that. They don't know what to do about it. They realize they're not living to their full potential, but they don't know what to do. And so they just keep doing what they've always done, slowly simmering in the pot with the rest of the frogs. Let me be blunt here. I don't want that for you. I don't. I want this community to be filled with people who are living the very best lives they can imagine. I want you to be in it all the way, sucking the marrow out of life. I want you to be the wealthiest, richest people in Kansas City and the happiest people on earth. I want you to be crazy in love. Crazy in love. I want you to make a difference in the world. I want you to leave it better than you found it. I want you to wake up each and every day not afraid anymore. I want you to wake up each and every day saying, I am a powerful being and I'm going to create a good life. That's what I want for you. That's why I started this place 21 years ago. And my responsibility in all that is just to guide you. It's just to guide you and to support you with whatever wisdom I happen to have at any given moment. And that's what I'm going to do this morning. I'm going to give you three things that you can do right now to start living a better life. It's always three things. It's never two, it's not four, it's three. It's three. So number one, stay awake. Do not go back to sleep. Stay awake. And here's how you do that. You do that intentionally and consciously by staying really close to God. Really close to God. Like my dog, Jack, you stay very, very close to your source. That's what God is. It is the source. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't care. And that means in order for you to do that, you spend some time in spiritual practice. So you pray, or you meditate, or you chant. You do whatever it is you do that causes you, and here's the intention, to feel the presence of God. And it doesn't matter what that is. Put your headset on and listen to Bruno Mars. If you're from another generation, put your headset on and listen to Jimi Hendrix, if that's what makes you feel connected. And here's the thing, don't try to be all religious about this. Do whatever it is seems natural to you. If you're gay, sing show tunes and twirl around the house. You know, if you're a lesbian, build something for God's sake. Rent a U-Haul and move in with somebody. If you're straight, go camping or take a hike in the woods. Straight people like to do that. They have the proper shoes. Please don't send me an email tomorrow. I know those are stereotypes. Please don't do that. Point is, do whatever seems natural to you. Number one, stay awake. Don't go back to sleep. Stay close to the source of your good. Number two, I want you to take an inventory of your life this week. Not the whole life, but I want you to sit down and write down where it is you think you've started accepting less. Where have I started accepting less than what I really want? And don't lie. Don't rationalize your limitations, because right behind your writing, say, yeah, I started accepting less here, and here's the reason why. Well, because, I didn't have the right education, or nobody told me. There's going to be lots of excuses and reasons. Don't lie and don't try to rationalize it. Just say, this is where I have unconsciously started accepting less. And please don't judge yourself. We're all doing the very best we can with what we know at the time. And the truth is, you accepted what you did then because at that time you thought it was good enough, but now it isn't anymore. I want you to sit down and take an inventory and say, this is where I have started to accept less than what I really want. Make a list of it. That's number two. And then finally, number three is to make a plan. Make a plan to get out of what you are in. Start thinking bigger. Take yourself out of the box of your experience. If you could have everything you want your way, if you could design your life however it is you want it to look, what would your relationships look like? What would your career be like? And here's the greater question. If you knew, absolutely knew, that you were powerful, how would you carry yourself? How would you speak? How would you treat yourself? How would you treat others? This is your time, my friends. This is your life. Don't waste it. Go out there and suck the marrow right out of it. And so ends the lesson. Thank you. Thank you. For those of you who are new, and you've been here for the very first time today, I always get a standing ovation. Monique does sometimes, but I just wanted to share that. It's fun being Chris Michaels. So we give to you each week as an extension of our service a affirmation card that reminds you of what's been said here. Would you say it aloud with me, please? It is time for me to think better of myself and accept a greater good. Why is it time? So a woman came to me several years ago, and she was having trouble, and trouble was hitting her life one right after another. First it was the car broke down, and then she lost her job, and then there was something else that happened in her family, some illness. And she says, when is this going to stop? And I said, it's going to stop when you stop it. It will end when you end it. It is time when you say, it's time. You understand? All power moves from your decision. So let's know this. Let's remember that we are surrounded, immersed, enveloped, and embraced by the one perfect lover of life, the unconditional love of God. Let's remember that it accepts and loves us and is passionate about our good fortune. Let's remember that it holds no memory, so it has no judgment. Let's also remind ourselves of why we are here. We have been created in its image and likeness and set free to discover the unique individual that God created us to be so that we can fully express and allow it to fully express through us. As we turn away from our lowered expectations, as we turn away from other people's opinions, as we turn away from society's expectations of us, we face only God, whose desire for us is the same as it is for all living creation, the fullest expression of the highest potential, the experience of the greatest good. That is what we are about. And so it is.
It is enough to know. It is enough to know. It is enough to know that God is love. It is enough to be here in this majesty. It is enough to be here with God.
So this is our opportunity to release, to let go of anything that's happening in our life, to turn our attention away from that, and to begin paying attention to that life within us, to pay attention to our breathing as it draws us deep into our heart. And so we drop and let go of resistance, anything that would be holding us back from experiencing more of this presence that is available to us in this moment. And so we let go, and we go within, and we begin turning our attention inward.
It is enough to know. It is enough to know. It is enough to know that God is love. It is enough to be here in this majesty. It is enough to be here with God.
And so as we continue to breathe and go inside, what we notice is that our mind begins to be still, that our heart begins to open wider as we breathe more deeply, as we allow ourselves to feel that presence and to lean into it, to sink into that one love, that one life that is more than enough for everything that we may be walking through in this human life. That we are beginning to get in touch as we go within to that spiritual side of life, where everything that we need is already given, that there is more available to us than we could ever imagine. And so we breathe into that, allowing ourselves to open up and to go within, to that quiet place as we sit in the silence. So how good it is to remember that wherever we are a point of presence for God. That wherever we are the presence of God. And in that presence is everything that we could ever need. And so we open up to that truth. That wherever we are is sacred because we carry the sacred with us. And so our hearts are open. We throw our lives wide open in faith and in trust to this bigger idea. And we allow ourselves to be expressions of it.
It is enough to know. It is enough to know. It is enough to know that God is love. It is enough to be here in this majesty. It is enough to be here with God.
And so as we close, we take a breath and remember that we are an idea in the mind of God whose time has come. And together we say, and so it is.